on the program.
Well, you know I always got the tea right. So catch this tea. According to Philadelphia Police Department statistics, 319 people have been murdered in Philadelphia this year as of September 14th. That's a 31% increase compared to this same time last year. That averages to more than one person killed each day in Philadelphia. As of September 13th, nearly 1,400 people have been shot in Philadelphia so far this year, a 45% increase compared to the same time last year. Lorraine?
We know there's no simple answer to this problem. Philadelphia has the highest poverty rate among big cities. How this grinds on opportunity in housing, education, and jobs is without question. Combine that with the easy availability of guns, the mental health burdens of this pandemic, and we have an explosive situation. Let's go down the line with each of our guests to make an opening remark about the state of gun violence in the city. And we're going to ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes. And we're going to start with Philadelphia City Councilman Kenyatta Johnson. Kenyatta?
Thank you very much, Lorraine. I want to thank you and the iHeart team and the Rise and Grind team for hosting this virtual town hall. And enough is enough. It's a call to action as we address the issue of senseless gun violence here in the city of Philadelphia. We know that we must take a comprehensive approach in addressing this issue, addressing issues of trauma, addressing issues of opportunities for our young people, addressing the issues of where guns are coming from, because we know there are no gun factories in Point Breeze. There are no gun factories in Strawberry Mansion. But I believe ultimately, if we all work together collectively, those who are elected officials, those who are in our law enforcement agencies, but most importantly, the community, all stepping up, working hand in hand together, we can address this issue of senseless gun violence. And so, again, I want to thank you for hosting this very lively and most importantly, critically important discussion around the issue of gun violence, and enough is enough.
Philadelphia Police Inspector Derek Wood, you see things from both sides of the fence. You are in law enforcement, but also you have had tragedy in your own life. Tell us how you feel about this situation with gun violence.
Well, Mother just said how with 319 homicides and 1,400 people shot. Those are numbers, but those numbers are people behind those numbers. And my nephew, Tyshawn, who was killed in June, his homicide hasn't been solved. So I can understand what people in the city go through. I express my condolences to people who have to experience that loss. Also the people who deal with the violence on a daily basis, who are trapped in these neighborhoods and just want a better place to live and want a safe place to sit out on their porch and things like that. So that's what I see, and that's how I feel. And I know that the police department is doing their best to try to make the city safer. We put plans in place and we have some different things we're trying to roll out this year. Hopefully we can do that and turn this around. But when we say these numbers, don't forget these numbers are people behind these numbers. There's families and friends that have to suffer through this gun violence epidemic.
Okay, Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner.
So I appreciate exactly what Inspector Wood and also council member is saying. We all want to see Tyshawn's murder solved. We all want that. And that is part of the reason that there is a collaboration now in ways there have not been in the past between the police department and the district attorney's office to try to bring up the rates of solving these crimes. That is a small part of the answer. And I say it's a small part of the answer for reasons I'm sure Stanley Crawford will talk about, which is that you don't solve smoking by doing lung transplants and heart transplants. You solve smoking by preventing smoking. That's how this works. It works in other countries. It works all over the world. There are a lot of countries where you're looking at 1/10 or 1/9 the rate of homicide, 1/10 or 1/9 the rate of people in jail. But they've done some things we're not doing. We need to find ways to get to the core of what's going on here, and that is about prevention. We have a crisis now, and there's this temptation among us politicians. Let me take it on me. I'm a politician, right? And the temptation is that we're going to tell you we got a magic solution right now. All right? Because we're all running for something soon enough. We're not going to say, here's the 10-year solution. Here's the 20-year solution. This is how you really do it. You stop Philly from being the poorest of the 10 largest cities. You stop this entrenched cycle of poverty. You make jobs available. You improve education. You spend as much money on every student in Philly as you do in Montgomery County. That's not how you get reelected. The way you get reelected is talking tough and coming up with simplistic solutions. Yes, there are things we have to do, like improving the forensics that the police department and the DA's office have available to solve crime. We see it on TV all the time. We just don't have it in Philly. That's the reality, because the politics have not been there to get the DNA right, to get the cell phone technology right to solve crimes. But that's after the tragedy happens. Once the blood is on the ground, there is nothing that's going to happen in a courtroom that is going to completely solve that situation. The key to this always has been and always will be, look at the causes of poverty, prevent what causes gun violence, be serious about it, understand it's going to take a while, and we will get there slowly and surely, or we can just be doing this again the next time the crisis kicks up.
Stanley, you've got boots on the ground. You're founder of the Black Male Community Council of Philadelphia. I've seen you all out there on the street cleaning up and talking to the young ones. Tell us your perspective on all this.
Well, last Tuesday was the second anniversary of the murder of my son. I never said my son died. No, my son was murdered. And last Tuesday was the second anniversary. And as a result of the murder of my son, and I'd like to thank Larry Krasner and the police department for at least arresting somebody for the murder of my son. But what keeps me in this fight is because I understand that the rest of the murder of my son, there's still thousands of people walking the streets of Philadelphia that have not had closure to the murder of their loved ones. So I could go back and sit on the couch and feel satisfied that the person who murdered my son at least has been arrested. But I like to just do this. This is a letter to my son from his daughter, who was at the grave last Tuesday, reading this letter to her father that says it all in reference to what we are experiencing and goes beyond the person who was murdered. She says,
yeah, I'm here.
2018 broke me. On this day, 9:08 a.m., the love of my life left me here in this cold world with no protection, because he was all the protection I needed. I always felt safe in my father's hand. When you died, I died mentally and grew up to hate this day more and more each year. Being 16, losing someone so close to me really changed me, and only those who knew our relationship knew this was the big one for me. Still to this day, I reminisce on the old days, which was all good days. A father who could never do any wrong in my eyes. He would always tell me how much I meant to him and how peaceful he wanted my life to be. You left your moo-moo here with a bunch of memories and motivated me to grow harder to make you and the family proud, and I would never let you down because you never let me down. Years later, I'm still in shock. It still hurts posting old pictures of you on holidays when those could have been up-to-date ones of you. I never understood how living in this world with no father would be, because I always had mine by my side. I'm still adjusting to you being so far, far away, where you were always one phone call away. I saw you every day, and I was supposed to see you that same exact day when I got myself together. But God had another plan, and he's making sure you see me and watch over me now. I love you and miss you more than ever. The love of your life forever in my heart. Now, why did I read that? Because when we doing this here, what we doing, we have to be mindful that there's a pain that continues to manifest even after those who we put in the ground.
Right.
Right.
Well, let's move on. Dimples Brown, founder of Dimples for Days. You're surrounded by old heads here, okay? We're all like, he's twice as old or more than you are. So, I think we really want to hear what you have to say. You're 17 years old. What's your perspective?
Honestly, at a young age, it's heartbreaking. Seeing people die every day, just getting on No Gun Zone is heartbreaking. Getting those notifications to the Citizen app, I'm hurt. I'm in the 12th grade. I'm worried about how to maintain our age. I'm worried about the next party to go to. But then having to explain that to my parents, and they express fear to me like, we don't want you to go because of this. Do you see the gun violence that's going on? That's the least of my worries. That's what I should least be worried about. I should be worried about living my life, because now I'm about to go into a career path where I'm about to lose control. So the little bit of control I do have is being stripped away from me because of gun violence. Not even just that, but I've had personal friends that are losing their friends to gun violence. I'm seeing people on Instagram hurt. I'm worried about what's the next Dimples for Days event going to be. How can I call out the community? But how am I going to keep thinking about that when the community continues to be lost at the hands of gun violence with no real solvency, no real solution? Everyone wants to talk about it, but then what's really being done? And that's really how I look at it. Only being 17 years old, I've seen things, and I'm seeing things, and I continue to see things that are going on inside of this community that need to be fixed ASAP. But the thing is, there's no ASAP fix. But we need to start talking about it. We need to be more hands-on. We need to honestly sit down in a circle and decide this can't keep happening. People can't keep losing their lives. Loved ones can't continue to be lost. No gun zone should not be updating the post every minute. That's not normal. That's not even like humane. So that's really my take on it, especially from being on the younger side and not really fully experiencing all that others have, but just being young, trying to maintain life and having to deal with a burden such as gun violence continue to affect those around me. It's harmful. It hurts. It's not healthy. We need to figure it out now.
Hey, Kayla, I'm glad you touched on that, and that was a conversation that myself, Roxy, and Mother talk about all the time. Mr. Crawford, Mr. Krasner, Kenyatta, Inspector, the root of the problem. How did we get to it? We've done these street talks plenty of time. I don't know how many I've done. We do peace on the street. We hit the community. And it seems like nothing works. It seems like nothing happens. Every day, Roxy's doing a rundown and talking about a senseless murder, a horrible holiday weekend. How can we get to the root of the problem? How can we, we've been doing these for years. And it seems like tonight someone will get killed. Tomorrow someone will get killed.
Yeah. I honestly feel like I've had these conversations multiple times with my parents, and how we are doing these talks and conversations, we have to understand that there's not going to be a quick fix. This is chaos, and there's no solution to chaos, but you can stabilize it. So you need to stabilize the chaos, and you're not just going to get there from the continuous talks. You're not just going to get there from the continuous violence. Of course, those are stepping stones to the next step, but we need to do a little bit more than that, and we need to be more persistent and more consistent. And then we also need to figure out what the real root of the problem is. Gun violence.
That's what I'm saying, Kayla. What's the more? You're saying we need to do more. We need to find out what the root of the problem is. We talk about that all the time, but what's the root? Where's the root?
If you ask me, I think, there's a variety of different reasons. Obviously, we, as the district attorney talked about, when you have areas where there's high poverty, it's high crime and violence. We know that, right? We know from a resource standpoint, we could be doing a better job in terms of more mentoring opportunities for our young people, making sure there's job and career development opportunities for our young people, just being more aggressive in fixing our education system, right? But also, I have to be frank when I say this, as a people though, we got to get back to self-love, right? When I grew up as a young person, right, we all looked out for one another in the neighborhood in which I grew up in, right? Or where you can come home and that parent or that neighbor can look out for your children, right? And so some of it is just getting back to having a level of self-love amongst ourselves as a people, right? But also separate from that is encouraging and giving our young people a sense of hope that when there are social media beefs, there are social media conflicts, the first thing that person does isn't run to pick up a gun to take another person's life. And a lot of that comes down to just basically having real heart-to-heart conversations, letting our young people that we care about them, we love them. I think a lot of times as adults in our communities, we don't talk to the young men when we do see them standing on the corner. Like when I grew up as a young man and somebody might have pulled me to the side and said, listen, that's not the best behavior, or if you want to get involved in something that's positive, you can, as opposed to staying on the corner for the rest of your life. We need to be more hands-on. That's why I do work and support the work that Stanley Crawford does and other boots on the ground organizations, because at the end of the day, we have to take part of this is having a hands-on approach.
I'd like to add something to that. One thing that our experience is this. They call us OGs. And young brothers need, and we the OGs need to find ways and means of engaging the younger brothers. And what we do as the Black Male Community Council, when we out there cleaning, it gives us an opportunity, number one, to clean up a neighborhood, but also it gives us an opportunity to be in presence where the young brothers is at. They're not all going to be receptive to hearing what we got to say, but the more we are in front of them, the more we are around them, the more opportunities we have to engage with each other, we are able to start the process of sharing and showing them that we care. If we're not where they're at, then we can't have the ability to share with them and let them share with us. So at the end of the day, what we advocating is for the brothers that is a part of the community to get out in the community, do something with the community that's effectuating some positiveness in the community. And you'll be surprised how many of them young brothers would ease up to you and say, "Oh, gee, you gotta, you know where I can get a job at?" Or, "Oh, gee." And we have had experience where the young brothers is not as unapproachable as we perceive they are. But if we find mechanisms and ways to be amongst them in a constructive and positive way, we begin that process of sharing and caring with them, and it makes a difference.
And Mike, I just want to add just one last part. We can't hear you, Lorraine.
Lorraine,
I just want to add one last part, Mike, is that also, right, got to look at trauma, right? Because when I talk to a lot of young men, right, some young men just are angry. And it's not always about resources. Resources play a major part, right? But also individuals may be going through something personal inside, going through something personal within their family, like going through something personal as relates to them just growing up in our environment. Because I grew up in South Philly all my life, wasn't always on the right path, but through the grace of God, if it wasn't for a mentor, if it wasn't somebody supporting me, if it wasn't somebody encouraging me, when I wanted to create my own organization, Peace Not Guns.
Got to keep fathers in the homes, man. Got to keep the parents together.
Believing in me and pulling me to the side.
Start there with family court.
You don't have to sit on the corner for the rest of your life, getting involved in things that are negative. I know that's the key component in which I see when it comes to taking back our streets.
All right. So just from like that alone and hearing that, I have a question for you all. You know,
Can't hear you, Lorraine.
Oh, you can hear me? Hold on.
No, we can't hear Lorraine. Go ahead, Kayla.
But I still got a question for everyone. But it's clear to say, like, everybody can agree that gun violence is a symptom to something much larger. So now let's start picking those symptoms. Let's look directly into the school system. We're talking about getting kids off the streets. We're talking about implementing more resources. But what if we brought the resources inside of the schools and started implementing trades from the 9th grade? So now everybody's big question is, how can we keep these kids off the streets? What can we, envelop in their mind so that they don't think that they have to turn to this? If you're introducing trades, financial literacy since the 9th grade, these kids will be graduating with skills already to take it into the community, to thrive the community and build it back up. So, the community isn't being built up. It's not being built up by the youth. I mean, the adults are doing an okay job, but how can they continue to even do that if everybody's worried about gun violence? No, you have to take it back to where the problem is, and it's starting in high school, because that's starting inside of the youth. So you start implementing now trade, financial literacy, giving these people a safe place to even hang out and thrive together and have a common goal to build up the community, but then making it incentive based on. There's the solution, but you already see that with programs such as NOMO, such as Philly. Dimples for Days plays its part by implementing those different resources here and there. So it's about how can we get these kids and get the youth to come together and recognize their talents at a young age so they don't have to worry about going to the streets. A lot of these people turn to the streets because that's all they see. That's all they know. That's all they're familiar with. But if they already going to school, start making them know what it is to introduce the cosmetology, cosmetics, mechanics, etc. All of the trades, culinary, giving them those basic stepping stones to the next step of what their life could be and giving them hope. Because if you're showing them early on what a career path could look like down the line with, financial literacy, graduating with a 740 credit score, you setting these kids up for success before they even had the chance to fail themselves. So everybody wants to talk about gun violence. What's the solution to gun violence?
Can't hear.
Dimples, I think that is a great part of a solution, but I also feel like it's a lot bigger because I think that's only one half of it. I think that school is extremely important. You have to dive into the school portion of it, but I also think the other half of it is home and, neighborhoods and what they're seeing when they go home. I think that's the other part of it. And that's another situation, a whole other situation all in itself. How do you infiltrate that situation?
You continue to implement the programs inside of the neighborhood, such as NOMO, such as Philly, where they're calling teams together to show them the better lifestyle, to show them that, we can build up this community together, and then show them how, and they take them through it, giving them different opportunities, giving them incentive-based forms, keeping them off of the streets. People turn to the streets because they want money. We live in a society where in order to be something, you gotta look the part. How can they look at the part with no outlets, with no type of income coming in? But these programs that you see, such as NOMO, I'm gonna keep referring to NOMO because I'm a part of NOMO, such as Philly, such as Dimples for Days, giving these people options to, progress in life. Home is important, but after school life is a little bit better because that's where your time is going to be consumed. So if you're now taking up the time of what they're doing in school, you're taking up the time of what they're doing after school. If they go home and they have the problems, it's 2 out of 3.
Let's do this. What you're saying is correct, but we also have to deal with what we got in the immediate, what we're dealing with right now at this moment. And what we're dealing with now is not as one or the other. What we're dealing now is multifaceted, and some of it had to be short, medium, and long range. And we have to have the ability to get together like the DA, the police commissioner, the politicians. We all need to get in a room and get in that room with a sincere desire to come up with a methodology that we agree upon that we're going to implement in order to start with what we need to do right now. Some of this stuff here, and I'm telling you, from my experience, we can't treat some of these young brothers pansy. Some of these young brothers, as it has to be taken off the street for the safety of the community. We cannot continue to move as if there's a magic bullet that's going to stop this overnight. Excuse the expression, I used the wrong terminology. A magic wand.
Stanley, we have to take a break here. Okay. And Mikey, why don't you tell us that we can call in on the power lines.
You can call us on the power lines 215-263-6699. You can hit us up on the WDAS Facebook page. You can also hit us on our Rise and Grind page, Rise and Grind AM on Instagram. If you have a comment or a question, talk to us right now. We'll be back in just a few minutes. I hope you're having a great night. What happened, Lorraine?
So Roxy. So
Lorraine.
Your point is at
I don't know.
Right?
Can you hear me?
I remember.
We lost you, Lorraine. What happened?
Go in
I
my
know.
dresser drawer.
Yeah, we
go
can hear you now.
The house. Check who I was hanging out with.
Yes.
All method of making sure, right? Just keeping it real. There's a multifaceted approach to this. It plays a role as well. It plays a role because if your son hanging with people that got guns, you should know who your son hanging out with. That's a part of the conversation too, because you know who's in your house as a parent. I mean,
check 1 2.
That's no chaser.
Check 1 2. They
that's
can't
keeping
hear
it
me.
real. And one thing I know about the Black community, just in general, We know who commit gun violence. I find out who did the homicide probably faster than the inspector Derek Woods. I'm just being upfront with you. Because the streets talk, right?
Can you try to hang
At some
that up?
point in time, we have to address the issues, the conflicts before they rise to the gun violence at the community. I mean,
See,
the
I
law
have it on a
enforcement play
different,
their part,
Oh, okay.
but I also
different
believe,
thing.
just from my experience, the streets.
So what happened? It just stopped working.
Okay.
Just stop
Can y'all hold on for a minute? I got to do my producer thing. Lorraine, I don't know. Lorraine's having some technical
Yeah.
difficulties.
Hey, Mikey, can
We
you hear
need
me
to
now?
Find out if we have a call.
Yeah, Lorraine, we can hear you now.
You can hear me?
I
Yeah.
can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm
Yeah,
talking
we
to my
can hear
phone.
you.
So I'm just trying to
Yeah.
figure out a way to do it without feedback.
And how's
Can you
Raheem
hear us?
doing with phone calls? Is he getting any?
Yeah, let me check.
I don't think she can hear us.
The only way to do this would be to, the only thing I can think
And then, Mother, do you have anything on Facebook?
Yeah, I got a lot.
of, the way to do this.
Okay. So
Of
I
what?
guess if Raheem doesn't come back with the call,
No,
Rox,
that's
you can
okay.
just throw it right to us.
We'll just say that we had a technical problem.
Well, we don't know if we even have phone calls yet.
Well, we're having technical problems, so we probably can't get a phone call. So it says
Say it again, Mikey, I can't hear you.
The family happy all winter long.
because Lorraine has the pot up too high. I
Lorraine,
guess
can you
Rock's
low
on the
down
way.
that a little bit?
Its patented design fits in the palm of your hand with
I
5
don't
rotors
want to
blades.
do
The Flow Shaver
anything, I
gives
don't
you a
want to
clean
recommit
finish on the next
that's going to
It's sleek,
jeopardize
electric,
using the
and
connection.
buy a Flow Shaver today
Understand
at
what I'm saying?
flowshaver.com.
Yeah,
or
so
now
let's
available
do
on
this.
Amazon
Let
with promo code
me
10 for 10% off a Go
stop
Shaver today
video.
at
You have some
Amazon.com.
kind of a
The
glitch,
all
and I
Go
could fix
Shaver,
it,
a
but
shame
you might
above
lose
the
some of
rest.
your folks.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
You can. Okay.
Can you hear us?
All right. Let's do it this way.
Did they check in case Carolyn, any of them you would do by accident?
No, I don't.
Like, yeah, they keep it going.
I don't think they can't. I'm the host, so they can't do that to me. Okay. All right. I'll just hold my phone up like
Because your
this.
connection is fine out to the air.
Lorraine, you can hear us?
I can.
The
Yeah,
chat room can hear you, Lorraine.
I can hear you. But I think I'm just gonna hang back because this is you guys step up and I'll just come in at the end.
So Rock's coming back from the break. We don't have a call, right, Lorraine?
Let me check. Renard just walked out.
Visit wellsfargo.com/foodbank to learn more.
Let's see. We have 2 minutes. I'm gonna run out real quick.
DC said that he was taking out the promos, so I don't know what the last commercials will be.
With millions of hourly jobs, get matched with full-time and part-time work at snagajob.com.
Your daughter got her learner's permit, so you're getting your favorites at McDonald's to celebrate. And you let her drive.
Keeler, you ain't no joke.
Just make it to the drive-thru.
I be
Yeah.
trying.
No joke.
You was going in.
Keep up the good work,
You
young
was
lady.
going in.
Now, you're a bright spot as it relates to what the best our city has to offer when it comes to our young people. So thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Okay, team. I just want to let you know that there are phone calls. They're gonna come in and just confirm that.
So I can say, so are we coming back with a phone call or are we gonna wait a little bit for that?
We have 1 minute to know. So, hang on 1 second. They're supposed to run in here and tell me.
The quicker picker up.
It might not be enough time for him to edit it, so.
Well, do you want to go with some Facebook or Instagram comments?
I got questions from Facebook.
Okay, so I'll welcome everybody back and then and introduce like Mikey and Mother, and then Mother, you can jump into the comments or the questions.
Okay.
Well, Lorraine has to introduce the panel again. Lorraine, you want to do that or you want me to do it?
I guess I could do that. That'll be simple.
Okay. So can I answer that, Rock? You can just throw it right back, or Lorraine can throw it to Mother for some Facebook questions or comments.
Okay.
Rock, you
Okay.
said you got something too?
Oh,
Yeah.
the phone call's not ready. FYI.
Yeah, grab it.
We are not powerless. As the many before us, we must use our voice and our power. Reclaim your
Lordy.
power. Use your voice and vote because we matter. Check out blackvotersmatterfund.org.
Whoops.
Uh-oh.
Welcome back.
Double.
Welcome back to the special
Homicide.
edition of Street Talk, where we stop the music to talk about issues that matter to our community. We're Power 99's Rise and Grind Morning Show. I'm Roxy Romeo. We've got Mikey Dread. We've got Mother Nose. And of course, the incomparable Queen Ballard Morrill.
Thank you, Roxy. Philadelphia City Councilman Kenyatta Johnson's joining us, along with Philadelphia Police Inspector Derek Wood. We also have Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner, Stanley Crawford, founder of the Black Male Community Council of Philadelphia, and 17-year-old Akela Dimples Brown, who is the founder of Dimples for Days, a youth-led nonprofit organization in Philadelphia that inspires children, youth, and families. So I understand we have some Facebook comments and questions.
Yes, we do. Let's start with the man of the hour. Gilberto Gonzalez says, what is the solve rate for the murders of Black and brown folks compared to whites?
I guess that would be for the inspector, for Mr. Larry Krasner.
Well, I don't have the actual statistics for that breakdown, but I know that the solve rate was a little higher this year before COVID hit. We don't know what happened. The numbers are not, when I have with the numbers, we're not 100%, we're not satisfied. So we'll keep working hard to make sure that numbers go up. What we do need is cooperation from the community. For example, I'll talk about my nephew's homicide that's unsolved. I know who killed my nephew, but it can't be solved if the person who saw it does not come forward and say who did it. So I don't care what kind of technology you have, how much money we invest in that. If people who see it don't speak up, then we'll have this cycle of violence. So I think that what we have to do is speak up, and we can help solve some more of these homicides.
Let me just jump in there. The actual solve rate, I don't know specifically for Black and brown people, although we do know that the level of victimization with shootings and homicides of Black and brown people is extremely high. And we know right now, with all of these difficulties, that we are seeing solve rates for shootings that are sometimes as low as 10%. 10%. All right. I have great respect for the inspector, and I agree with him. We need people to come forward, but I do not agree that we don't need more forensics. My office was instrumental in solving a total of about 56 shootings committed by 9 people. We did it without one witness. And we did it because we had the forensics to do it. It was DNA. It was phone technology. It wasn't the right way to do it. We need witnesses too, but we did it. This city needs money for DNA and for phone technology. Other cities have it. They're able to solve crimes even when you don't have the community come forward. This city needs to commit to that.
And
Well, Mr. Larry Krasner, when you say we need money and other cities have it, where do we get the money from? Where's the funding come from?
So let's understand what actually happens with policing. Unfortunately, a lot of our financial incentives are not in the right place. There was a lot of overtime that was necessary for the Philadelphia Police Department during this pandemic, but you should know the amount of money that we're talking about to do what I'm talking about is between about $2 and $5 million, and maybe only a couple million moving forward year after year. We spent $50 million on police overtime in the early part of this year. It is the highest amount spent on police overtime in the history of the city of Philadelphia, and they needed a lot of it.
Wow, that's
but here's the
crazy.
news: we needed $2 to $5 million of that money to go to forensics more than we needed it for $2 to $5 million of that overtime. They can have the other $45 million. We needed $5 million for forensics, and until this city makes a decision that they're not just going to put money in pockets, they're going to put money into solving crime, we're going to have a problem. You can solve the crime or you can have the overtime. I say we solve the crime.
Can I add something to this? Number one is the year my son was murdered, the unsolved murder rate was 60% in 2018. If I'm in the murdering business, Philadelphia was a great place to be that year. because that meant if you murdered somebody, you got a 60% chance of getting away. Also, I want to make it clear that we are working with the Unsolved Murder Families of Unsolved Murder Project, because the unsolving of murders perpetuate murdering. So we have to be very clear. This is very serious business, and we have to be able to come together and work together. The police department, the DA, and the community must work in hand, because we can't leave these murderers and these people that is shooting up our family members to be amongst us and be comfortable. You can't. We can't. We can't. We got to be able to take that no snitching concept out of our minds. And if somebody in our community is killing our people, shooting our people, it's our duty and our responsibility to make sure they are no longer comfortable in our community. That's why
Mike, and I would just add this, because I see there's a difference in philosophy as well as approach between our district attorney and our police officer, which is quite fine. But at the end of the day, rather it's overtime, rather it's a new forensic site, we all still got to work together, because at the end of the day, it's Black children, Black African-American young men, Black women, Black children as well being shot and murdered at the end of the day. And they don't understand this conversation about overtime versus forensic. When I'm walking in my neighborhood, people want to feel safe at the end of the day. And most importantly, when a loved one is lost and I have to look a mother in the face and talk to her about her son or her daughter being murdered, at the end of the day, they want justice. They want to be able to sleep at night. They want to be able, when that birthday comes, when those holidays come, they want to be able to feel like there was some type of justice brought to that family. And so at the end of the day, the only way we get there is by all of us working together, being on the same page, trying to figure out what works and what's not working, toss that to the side as relates to bringing justice to the family of those who have lost their lives to gun violence. And so that's how I believe is the best approach in terms of us working comprehensively. And our inspector is right on point. It's not just going to take law enforcement. The community does have to step up and say something. If you see something, say something. Step up and speak up. Because at the end of the day, if we come together as a people and address this issue, we don't even need the level of law enforcement that we see patrolling in our community, rather being from a prosecutorial standpoint or a law enforcement standpoint, because at the end of the day, we're doing for self as a people.
Right.
That's my perspective on it.
Right. We're live on Power 99 and WDAS-FM. We're streaming live on the WDAS-FM Facebook page. If you have questions, you can hit us there. Also, Rise and Grind AM on IG. Mother Knows, do you have another question from the Facebook page?
No, I have a question that I want to ask Philadelphia City Councilman Kenyatta Johnson.
Okay.
Kenyatta, studies show that gun violence has a lasting effect on our mental health. Every time we have a gun violence episode, we accumulate more and more trauma. Talk about the importance of providing emotional support to the victims and survivors of gun violence.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, on this upcoming November 3rd, during the November 3rd election on the ballot, I have a bill to create the Office of Victims Advocates. In this office, it will allow for us to advocate through policy, advocate through legislation, and most importantly, through resources to give a voice to those who have been victims and co-victims of gun violence and homicides. And so when we talk about trauma that our young people are experiencing when they're seeing someone who have lost their lives to gun violence or lost a loved one to gun violence, this office will provide the type of resources and support to address those issues. Even this upcoming Thursday in City Council, I'll be introducing a bill to call on the Philadelphia School District to do mandatory trauma services for our young people. Our young people are hurting, and we all know that hurt people hurt people. So how are they processing knowing that a loved one, and not only just a loved one, but a lot of the friends of those who have lost their lives to gun violence, of young men who are out here in the streets and young ladies as well, they're hurting. How are we addressing and supporting these young people who are walking around with pretty much PTSD when they see this level of gun violence that we're seeing in the streets of Philadelphia? And so that's a critical part that we must address from a resource standpoint. That's why I'm introducing a bill to make sure that the Philadelphia School District at least make sure that they're providing mandatory resources to our young people around trauma, but also we have to make sure we have trauma resources for our communities as well, because our communities are hurting when they're seeing this level of gun violence that we haven't seen, at least in my lifetime, that I'm seeing right now. I've never grew up where I saw it's regular to see a teenager being murdered as well as a baby being murdered. That's abnormal and it's totally unacceptable, but it's going to take all of us working together on this thing with a level of sincerity and aggressiveness to address this issue.
Mother, another question from, Mother, did you have another question or a question from
Fanoz, are you there, sir?
Facebook?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Wait, I'm sorry. Before
Yes,
you
I can
take
hear
the
you.
question, can I just say something real quick?
Of course.
I'm not as knowledgeable as the rest of you on this topic, but just from being here, I'm able to observe what's going on. A lot of the money and a lot of the talk is being done on the back end, such as that $50 million that's being implemented on the back end. So how can you expect to like solve the problem if we're only coming from it from the back? We got to look at it from the front. So that 50 million, you take that and you invest that in the community. You take that and you fix up the school systems. You take that and you give it to those programs. That's the front end to solve, well, to stabilize what we're looking at and what's the big issue. You can't continuously invest in the back end and expect better results. We've been doing that. That's been done. It's time to like divert the interest of where the money can go and how we can implement way more.
There's so many facets to this situation, and it's like we've been saying from the beginning, it's not a quick fix. I know that Raheem, shout out to our guy Raheem, he's actually in the Power 99 studio right now running the board, and I know he's got some calls lined up. So Raheem, if you want to
I agree.
What the hell are they waiting for? Anyway, I'm doing. Yeah, she is smart. I'm just doing my service. I'm working on something, so I figured, it's a good way to start. I want them to talk about like you got to keep the parents together, man. Keep kids,
Anybody home?
Yeah, I'm trying to see. I can't.
We can't hear anything.
Unfortunately, we couldn't hear the phone call, but we heard it was a good call.
Shout out to our boss giving us an update.
Are we back? Mine is not being on.
Hello? Caller said the DA not doing his job. Well.
Hey, Mother, let's jump to some more comments from Facebook.
Oh, give me 1 second because there's a lot. Let me get them going.
Yeah, they're moving on that stuff. Why do you get them together? Kenyatta
Jerome
and
Fordham.
Inspector. All right, go ahead.
Jerome Fordham says we need more love in the home. I agree with you, Jerome. Love is all we need. It starts at home. We need parents to be parents and not their children's friends. Wayne M. Warmly says he wants to know, why do young people pick up guns rather than stay in school? And then you have Jazzy Jackson. She says the answer to gun violence It's for the families and friends of someone who they know have a gun and tell them they want to kill someone. Don't take it as a joke. Ask them, what did that person do to you to make you want to take their life? You have to turn them in. The person they kill is also on your hands. So stop saying snitching and speak up. We can't keep closing our eyes to the truth.
Inspector and DA, I'm sure a lot of these violent crimes that have to do with handguns are from illegal handguns or from illegal firearms. How do we get some of these illegal firearms off the street?
But I'll let DA go first.
All right, thank you, Inspector. Well, number one, you vote. You go to the polls and you vote like your life depends on it, because it does. We are dealing with an administration that has no interest in regulating guns. The truth is we regulate guns less than we regulate cars. That is the truth. We have this thing in Philadelphia called a ghost gun. It's mostly plastic. It's got no serial number on it. And there are not even federal and state laws against it. You ever seen a ghost car? It's got no license plate. It's got no inspection sticker. It's got no. They pull it over and they take it. But we do not have laws that will protect us. We even have a federal government that says you're not allowed to research gun violence. We have laws that say you can't even find out where a gun came from if someone gets killed with it, because the NRA has run us into that corner. We need new leadership in this country, and we need big solutions like, no, we're not going to have 4 times as many opioid pills. No, we're not going to regulate guns less than cars. No, we're not going to make educational funding just based on the local tax base, which means poor people get poor schools. We're going to take all the money in the country and give an equal amount for every public school, and you will see revolutionary change. But that's what we need. We need big solutions. That means you got to vote on election day, and you got to make sure that we have some new leadership in this country.
All right. So what I'll say is, like Kayla was saying earlier, by the time someone gets to us, a lot of systems have failed them. School, social services, their parents, their family, their friends, things like that. But I believe in, consequences for your actions. So this is not
family court
in any one particular office. This is the criminal justice system as a whole in Philadelphia. We all have to do better. When there are 1,400 shootings and 300 homicides, none of us are doing our job well. We all got to improve. So I think that, I'll give you an example of someone last week we had here, we locked up in Southwest. This guy was locked up for a gun in 2017, 18. We got him in getting 19. I think some of these people are emboldened to pick up guns because they're not being held accountable. And we see this over and over again. So I think that, people have to be held accountable. We have gun laws now that should be enforced. I think it'll make people think twice before they pick a gun up. We've been arresting more people for guns, and more cases have been thrown out, and more cases we're losing those cases, whatever. So I think moving forward, we have to get better. The whole system, everyone has to get better when it comes to that. Make these guys think twice before they pick a gun up and go out there and hurt someone else.
Mr. Crawford, I think you wanted to say something.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay. I truly believe this, and the DA and the police commissioner and other people who know me know that I have been on the front line trying as much as I can to bring some solutions. And from what I've seen over the couple of years since the murder of my son, we need to have a sit down where all the parties can sit down and really talk this through, because while we are going through these mental gymnastics, people are dying. It hurt me when them 2 17-year-olds in South Philadelphia, 4 of them shot and 2 of them got killed, while we sitting around trying to figure this out. And we say this here, then listen, we say how unintelligent them brothers is, but they're outsmarting us because they are doing stuff to put our lives in danger, and we still sitting at the table trying to figure this out. If we don't come together, the DA, the police, the politicians, like I said again, we have to get together and come up with a process that we can agree upon. The sister is brilliant. She's 17 years old, but she's smarter than a lot of us at her 17-year-old age, because she's coming up with practical and applicable solutions that we have to be moving and implement. We all know what the problem is, but we have to come together as intelligent adults and implement something.
And
So
yeah.
No, go ahead, Jimbo.
Oh, I'm sorry. And like, here's just one more solution. One of the questions were, why do these teens continue to have guns, the teens inside of schools? Well, maybe because if you start to implement and bring in mentors that have lived their lifestyle, that have learned from their mistakes and can like come back and relate to these teens, it will give them a whole different perspective. I have uncles that have been to jail, come out, changed their life around. I have a stepdad that's been to jail, came out, changed his life around. Now I'm working in City Hall. That doesn't happen every day. But then when you see those results and you are in the streets and you are, and it's like, whoa, at one point I was you, but look at what I became.
All right, Rox, you had one last question from Lorraine before we wrap this up, right?
Yes, but I don't know if we're going to be able to get to everybody. So the question Lorraine had, because she's having technical difficulties, is if you could give one piece of advice to the listeners on what they can do to help the situation, what would it be? Dimples, you have given so many pieces of advice, so I don't know if you have anything left, but if we could just quickly go through and get as many answers as possible. Inspector, you want to start?
Yeah, I think that I encourage everyone to get involved. Like Kayla was talking about, with James and Kendra, I know that. Men Encourage with Taj Murdoch, other groups out there, NOMO. Those are kind of groups we need to support. When you talk about funding and things like that, I see a lot of youth groups who are engaged in the youth, they lack space. So if somebody can do anything, and anybody can get involved. You can own a property you're not using. You can spend time, money. Everybody doesn't have time. So you have money, donate money. These groups need your help. So Black people between the age of 16 and 34, Black males, are the target group that get killed more than anyone else. So if any way you can get involved with those kind of people, you can help solve the homicide rate in the city and the shooting by getting involved and investing in those people.
Mr. Crawford, last and final words.
Yes, well, we as the Black Male Community Council of Philadelphia is encouraging the Black men to come out of these masquerades, come out of these churches. If you're a Masonic brother, come out and do some work in the community. If you're a frat brother, come out and work in the community, because this is where they need us at. We the Black men that is in the city of Philadelphia has to be able to step up to the plate and protect our women, our children, and our elders. They should not be afraid. They shouldn't have to walk in dirty communities when you got able-bodied Black men. You don't have to sit in the mass chair. Get up off that rug and come and do some work in the community. Come out of that pew after you get your sermon and find out what you can do in the community. The Masonic, you can do all of these secret handshakes you want, but the community needs you to come out and do some secret handshake in the community. And the fat brothers, you can do all the stepping you want, but when you need to step in the community and be a part of the solution, and let's come together, organize together so we can be a presence in the community to protect our women, children, and elders.
Kayla, last and final words.
All right. You got to work together. We got to support. We got to continue to invest. We got to continue to throw out ideas. We have to continue doing everything that we've been doing, but do it 10 times more and do it 10 times more effectively. I mean, you've heard where I'm coming from a teen's point of view. You've heard everybody else's. It's time to throw it in a pot and let's get it rolling. It's no longer we can continue to sit back and talk about what we're going to do in the back end. Let's start tackling the front end. It's time to change. It's time to like really take over the streets again and show people that it's more to life than picking up a gun.
Well said. DA Larry Krasner, last and final words.
So my last and final word is one size does not fit all. There is something special that Inspector Wood can do, something special Stanley Crawford can do. There's something special every parent can do. Every old head, as you put it, on the block can do. There's something special Kayla can do. But there's one thing we can all do, except to Kayla, and she can do it soon, and that's we can vote. Because if you want big changes, you are going to need big solutions, and you are not getting them. You are not getting them until you express your power in a voting booth. So go vote.
Mr. Kiala Johnson, wrapping up everything. Last and final word, sir. You're on mute. You're on mute, Mr. Johnson.
I thank all the panelists for taking time out of their schedule and being a part of this virtual town hall. This evening, our district attorney, Keela, Stanley Crawford, and most importantly, also as well, Inspector Derek Woods, because this is a very critical issue that we're addressing. We are in a state of a crisis. as it relates to gun violence here in the city of Philadelphia. So I just challenge everyone who's listening, the listening audience, to find a way to get involved. Become a mentor, become a block captain. Make sure you're finding your way that you want to contribute to addressing this issue. No elected official is going to save us from this gun violence issue. We have to do our parts in terms of stepping up and working together. But at the end of the day, it will never work if there's not a partnership with the community. And particularly as African Americans, we have to step up, because at the end of the day, right, there are Black and brown young people who are dying on a day-to-day basis. We have more Black elected officials in positions of power in all facets of government. And there's no way that we should be seeing this level of violence that we're seeing in our community. So we all have to step up, do a better job. And from a humanity standpoint, all of us come together, put some love back into our community, and address this senseless issue of gun violence. And I believe wholeheartedly that we can do it.
We appreciate everyone checking in with us tonight. A great virtual event. Thank you, everyone, for taking a little bit of time at your schedule to talk to the community. If we just, help one person, that's absolutely amazing. We're going to jump back into the music in just a few minutes. I hope everyone's having a good night. I'll talk to y'all later. Have a good one, y'all.